Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your podcast host here at Action Coach in Central Texas. And today on the show, we have Cory Hanneman, Managing Director of Element 7 Concrete Design. We're going to learn all about Cory, his journey to business ownership, and challenges and best practices that he's learned along the way. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this one. Well, welcome, Cory. It's so good to have you here today.
It's really an honor to be here, Kay. Thank you.
For sure. Well, let's dive in. I'd love to learn a little bit about you and your business. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I think my tale is probably more of a cautionary tale of what not to do than like a heroic journey where you can be like, oh, I want to be like that guy over there. I was a painfully mediocre student in junior high and high school. Uh, After high school, I worked construction for a couple of years, and I remember being on the roof of a building doing architectural sheet metal work, and I was watching like all the kids moving into their dorms, and um, at the time and even still, construction was kind of a low status job. And I remember the derelicts that I was with up on the roof compared to the kids moving into their dorms. I just thought, I got to go to school. I spent like 7 or 8 years picking away at an undergraduate degree. Ended up majoring in mathematics at the University of Nevada at Las Vegas. Met a girl from Texas, married her after like 3 months. After our second child, I thought, holy crap, I probably ought to wrap up this school thing and figure out what I'm going to do for a living, get a real job. I'd always wanted to go into business. 2006, I bought a little thing that some dude was operating out of his garage that he'd been, just working as a solo operator for 5 years because I was bold enough to move halfway across the country and reinvent myself, but not from nothing. So I figured I could do what that guy did. And like buying a job wasn't like a foreign concept for me because in Las Vegas, I was in the culinary union and in front services, the tipping culture out there. It was kind of connected, was the word we used to use. And so like paying a guy with an Italian last name for a job wasn't a weird thing. And that's kind of how I got started, and it snowballed. It's like maybe 10 to 15 times the size now that it was when we started, but it's not like some big international thing that anyone should aspire to. I feel like I'm smart enough to do some hard things and some cool things, and dumb enough to keep wanting to do those things. And here we are.
Wow, that is such a journey. Well, tell us a little bit about Element 7.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, small company, we employ maybe 20 people. We do high detail masonry work. Best analogy I can think of is like you have a framer and you have a trim carpenter, and they both work with wood. They're totally different guys. And so we do like the trim carpentry of cement. So we install ground and polished concrete floors, wall coatings, decorative overlays, anything that it's kind of the opposite of planned obsolescence. So like I think there's a lot of things that people sell that they're designed just to keep selling more and more and more of. And one of the dumbest things about my business is that if I really do my job well, then you maybe call me in 10 or 20 years when you're building something else, but we try to make things that will never wear out or never go out of style.
Okay, I like that. The longevity component is really, really cool. And so kind of like diving into what does your day-to-day look like in the company? Like, or what's your operations throughout the day?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean, we're small enough, embarrassingly now, that I find myself pretty close to the front lines at least 2, 3 days a week. I have an amazing leadership team, 3 guys that sell and set up the work and manage the materials and tools and that kind of stuff that truly do it better than I did in my prime. So I think when I'm doing my best work, I'm probably writing. I think creating, training things, and communicating our culture, because I feel like our values are kind of countercultural. And so the better I can articulate those things, I think the better I'm serving the world. So
Hmm.
if that help answers your question.
Definitely. And so if I were that ideal client, if I just walked in your doors, what does your ideal client look like?
Yeah, great question. I think, well, our business model has always been to focus on architects and high-end home builders, designers, because they get it. Like they totally understand like what we're about and what differentiates us. And then they bring their clients to us. And I think the clients are people that are early adopters, people that can embrace things with imperfection. As consumers, we're kind of conditioned where if something is at all imperfect, to ship it back and have Amazon send us another one. And concrete's kind of the opposite of that. Like, you get one slab and it's going to have things on it that we all kind of wish were different. And that's what makes it cool. Like, all the things that make it charming and endearing over time are the things that make it a bad product for 90% of the end users that are out there. And so I think the best clients are people that like appreciate hand-built stuff and the nuance that comes with that. And yeah, I guess does that answer your question?
Definitely. Yes, I love that. I think that kind of embracing the unique is a really cool, really great concept and what you're working on. And so kind of leading into another question of like, how do you compare within your competitors in the market?
I don't rightly know. I can tell you there's most of our competitors are either very small, where it's just Dan in a van, Chuck in a truck, like the guy that I bought the business from 18 years ago, frankly. Or if they're smart enough to have an organization and systems and processes, a lot of them are doing nationwide accounts, where they're grinding and polishing floors for Dollar General stores across the country, or Jersey Mike subs, or what have you. And I've always kind of shied away from that because I care deeply about the kind of jobs we create. And I figured that, like, if you're willing to be away from your family and friends to chase money, then you might ought to just go to the oil fields. And I don't know if I can compete with those guys, right?
Mhm.
So I think we're kind of a weird duck in that we're a pretty well organized company. We put a lot of work into our systems, but we also do high-end residential to keep guys local. So yeah, I don't really know of like a direct competitor where I can say, oh yeah, we're 30% below that guy or whatever else. I can tell you that, like, as far as pricing and in the market, I'm always trying to manage the tension between like giving our customers a really good value and taking great care of our people. And
Mhm.
and like that push and pull, I mean, it's a lot, right? Because like I grew up going to punk rock shows and DIY culture and all that, and like the whole thing, like if you charge too much at the door, like shame on you, right? Like,
Mhm.
you wanted to keep the prices low and to like just create value and not have to take more than you're giving at any point. And so that means a lot to me. But then I also, like I said, I'm in managing that tension. I would imagine we're mid-market or a little up-market because of how we take care of our people.
Definitely. Well, that leads me perfectly into the next question, which is what is one thing you wish more people knew about your business?
I would say the message I'm always working hardest to get across is really for the people to work with. And that's the joy of doing, the finding flow at work, and how much more fun hard work is than maybe work you can really phone it in at. I think high-end masonry work is probably the most complicated blue-collar job I've ever heard of. There's so many variables: the weather, the people, the finishes, the colors, the rocks. I mean, it's just, there's so many different things. And that's part of what makes it so incredibly satisfying to do. Like, if you read a book on mental health, it's construction work. If you ever saw the movie Office Space, um, the dude, Ron Livingston's character, his neighbor, the dude with the handlebar mustache,
Mhm.
happiest guy, just planet dude, construction worker. It's a physically and emotionally very healthy thing to do. So I guess if I had one message to get out, it would be to prospective people to work with, and that's just like, embrace doing hard things.
I agree with that. That's really cool. And kind of like, how are you getting the word out about your business? Let's dive into some marketing questions. So I like to, definitely showcase and share about different marketing aspects that businesses are doing. So where have you found success within marketing pursuits?
It's an interesting question for us because from day one, we've kind of prided ourselves on having a $0 marketing budget. Our mindset with the type of work that we do is that the quality has to sell the work. That if we're attracting attention, but we're not making world-class things, then I don't know a nice way to say it. It's kind of like the guy with the big flashy truck that like attracts a lot of attention. Maybe not the best guy to date in actuality, but like attracts a lot of attention. There's a word that starts with the letter D that seems inappropriate, but it comes to mind. Um, so yeah, so like I would say that like the way that we market, like if we really feel the need to attract more attention, I'll reach out to an architect or a home builder that I really like and I'll share with them something new that we're doing that they honestly don't know about. And maybe like if we've got a great relationship, I'll offer to make them a table or something that would show what this is. Like I'm literally doing that. There's a landscape architect in Austin who one of my favorite humans on the planet. And we were talking about a collaboration to make some concrete furniture. And I said, hey man, why don't I just make you like a 20 inch by 22 inch end table? It's to show you what I'm talking about, these finishes, just to kind of get the juices pumping. And that's been that's the extent of our marketing.
Oh, I like that. I think that's really cool. Like that you can showcase your products that way. That's really smart. And kind of like looking at how you manage the people you work with, maybe your clients or, your prospects or anybody. Do you use a CRM or how do you manage your the people you work with?
Yeah, great question. I am a CRM maniac. I think that like having systems to communicate intentionally, systematically, and thoroughly mission critical. There's no way that any of this works without that. And I mean that on every level. So to your point, like with employees, we'll have the equivalent of a CRM with like a place where we log notes regarding weekly one-on-ones or coaching objectives or dream manager stuff. Like what are they really trying to do with their life, where if I'm out, then Aaron or Matthew or Brett or whoever like knows where we left off. Like, because a lot of dudes like need you to stay after them to get their GED, to take ESL classes, to whatever they need to get where they say they want to go. There tends to need to be a little bit of positive pressure and coaching nowadays to help people get there. I said like 25 years ago, 30 years ago, I'm super old, I forget how old I am. Construction was kind of a low status gig, and I'm afraid that it still kind of is, which is really sad. Like I had a friend who, our kids grew up together. My son's 3 classes away from graduating from A&M, and she was saying like, oh, I wish Austin would do like your son Ethan. Her son's a welder. And I'm thinking, I wish my son was a welder. That's like a clear way to create value for other humans. And it's a shame that that's such a low status thing. I'm sorry, that was kind of a tangent there. But anyways, your question regarding CRMs. So yeah, our ERP is basically built on Salesforce. And then we created integrations to our inventory software that we built, our daily labor tracking thing that we built. Like we created all these other modules, and then we all kind of linked it back to Salesforce, because it's all about the next action and like having a closed loop, right? Like where everything is like, okay, what needs to happen next? What needs to happen next? And having systematic reminders built in for that stuff, and then like a place to log that. Yeah, I'm a fan.
Awesome. I love that. And kind of like switching the gears back to the company and a little bit about you. What is a memorable, like a roadblock or a challenge you faced within business that you overcame?
It's a really good question. I think, well, the one that comes to mind most often is solving the moisture vapor transmission problem. And this is super nerdy, but like there's companies out there that coat concrete, and they have these 20-year warranties or 30-year warranties or whatever. And they always have a line in there that say that if moisture exceeds 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet per 24 hours, then this warranty is null and void. Which from my perspective is super down, because the only thing that ever makes anything come off over time is moisture vapor transmission. So like you have this warranty that like is not covered for the only thing that'll cause it to fail. And so like nobody had really solved that problem, and it just seemed ridiculous to me that you would be coating concrete, because I mean, I'm out of Granite Shoals, Texas. There are 3 stoplights in this city, and like we do 500 projects a year, right? So like the odds of me running into a client at HEB are really good. And if we didn't figure out a way how to just make it work, rather than having like a well-written piece of legal, documentation, uh, it just feels gross. Like I don't want to like have to hide from anybody at the bar, And so figuring out like how to solve that problem at a price point and with a process that was fair, because like I can charge 20-30% more than that guy with that dumb warranty, but I can't charge double, and I can't do things that take like 4 or 5 days to install in your garage, because you don't want your stuff out of your garage for 4 or 5 days. And so like actually solving that problem, I think, was probably the coolest thing that we've done, at least in the last few years.
Oh, that's incredible. I love that. Well, kind of like now looking towards the future, what are the goals for your company within the next 3 to 5 years?
Hmm. Well, like I said, my story is more of a cautionary tale of what not to do than like a, hey, look at how much butt we're kicking over here. I frankly have had like the same 3 to 5 year plan for 5 to 10 years, which is embarrassing to admit. But I think the best way for us to scale the business, if we are going to have maximum impact in the world, would be franchising. We had a franchise disclosure document written. It's pretty solid. I think if we frankly got our poop in a group and use that to attract great talent here, and then they were able to take the IP that we've created on the road, that would probably be the best way to make a bigger impact. I think the only thing that's kind of exciting for me as far as now versus 5 years ago, let's say, is I think I've been rightly dubious of my own motivations. And I finally have kind of got some clarity on, yeah, you know what? It's okay to make a big bunch of money because there's this organization that you want to serve with that. And I feel alignment with that. And so maybe now we can actually get that organized and get that show on the road.
Well, that's really cool. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. You know, this has been such a fun conversation, and I'd like to dive into a fun Q&A. It is our rapid fire questions where you answer top of mind for the four following questions. Are you ready for some rapid fire?
I mean, I can try, but you might have noticed that sometimes my rapid fire is not so rapid. I'll stare off into space for a minute if I feel like I need to.
That's totally okay.
No, I mean an actual minute. Like there might be 3 minutes of me. I'm kidding. Go ahead. Let's
All
go.
right. Question number one is, what is the key to success for you?
Your motive. If you do something good with the wrong motive, I say no gain on the play.
Definitely. And what is one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
If I only have to have one, I would say help me sell to this generation the joy of doing hard things for their own sake. We all need to kind of pull together because like if we own businesses, then we're already doing that, we're living that. And I think that extrinsic motivation, doing things for outside reasons, it doesn't augment intrinsic motivation. It takes the place of it, and it's not as good a fuel, and it's unsustainable. And I think if the culture as a whole, everyone was singing the same song, then as a country we have a chance.
That's powerful. The third question is, what is one book or any piece of content that you've taken in most recently?
The book I'm reading right now, I'm super stoked on. It's called What's Best Next.
Hmm.
And it's kind of a like a have you ever heard of John Piper?
Yeah, yeah. I've watched on Piper.
Best theologian on the planet, right? He's a
Mhm.
he's a Minnesota guy and a great theologian and neat guy. There's a guy that worked in his organization that was a super hard driver that with that kind of Christian hedonism framework has mashed up the 7 principles of highly effective people in David Allen's Getting Things Done. And
Mm-hmm.
like and it's friggin' amazing. Like it's in such a good voice. It's so clean. Highly recommended.
Definitely. I like those books you mentioned too.
Classics. Those are like anybody in business has read those books, right?
Mm-hmm. Final question is, if you could wave a magic wand and improve one aspect of your business overnight, what would it be?
Oh, it'd be this idiot that I shaved with this morning. Yeah, seriously, I would, if I could wave a magic wand, I could give you like 4 or 5 things that I would change about myself. And like pretty much every problem with Element 7 concrete, I can trace to a character flaw. So do you want me to list the 4 things I need to change, or is that a little bit too much vulnerability?
Oh, it's totally up to you. Yeah, we have time. Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
well, I'll share it if other people think it's a thing. So I have to really work hard in order to manage the finances of the business because my default is to not pay attention to money. Like I would love to just make a big gob of money, live really far within my means and not worry about it. And like that'll work. Like you can get through life like that, but it's really poor stewardship and it's really toxic for the other humans in my world that can't afford to do that. So number one for me is financial diligence. Like just like I'm getting it happening, but it's like a working frustration for me. Like I really have to try hard on that, and that's not good. Second thing I would say would be I ended up majoring in mathematics because I was such a terrible student in high school that when I went back to college, I thought, okay, well, I can't do any like real majors, like where you can't BS your way through because I'm bad at math. I had this limiting false belief that I was bad at math. And so I took a math class. I got like 2 books that they weren't using. Back in the olden days, you had to buy books, and they had books that they weren't recommending. And so those books were like almost free. And I just did like wicked lots of practice problems until I got really good. Like I got like a 99% or whatever. And then I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again. And I ended up getting like really high grades in all these super hard classes by just putting in the work. And I realized that like there aren't smart people and dumb people as much as there are people that do the work for whatever reason. And then like that's cool. That's a great lesson. And I hope that sharing that helps somebody where they realize, hey, I can learn whatever. But then the flip side of that is you got to quit doing that. You got to quit like working out for no reason and actually just do what the people around you need done, whether it grows you or not. That contribution is the only reason to grow, and growing for growth's sake is not good. And so I would stop pursuing things that are hard that aren't intentional enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll stop after those two.
All right. Well,
Oh,
thank
I
you.
can keep going.
I mean, you might as
You
well. You said 4. Go ahead.
I'd be nicer. I'd just be nicer. I mean, like I think that like at the deepest level, I'm motivated out of love, and I want everyone around me to do better. But like there's 3 other disc profiles, and I could be a lot more like the person that I'm dealing with, and I could be like a lot slower and more compassionate, even if I feel like there's a lot of things that need to get done. I think in the expediency of the day to day, like I just don't take the time with people that I should, because people like, going fast is slow, going slow ends up more efficient. So that probably ought to be number 1. And then number 4 is maybe I think I would focus better. I think I would like just do a much better job of putting the horse blinders on and laser focus on whatever the thing is. Everyone's more distracted than they ought to be, right? So there's your 4. I said 4, you held me to it, and there you go.
Well, thank you for sharing your 4. And what is your disc profile, if you don't mind me asking?
Super high D, high I, DI.
Okay. Oh, that's
Do-
really cool.
yeah, dominant and influential.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for sharing this. Let's plug people into your business. How can people find you online?
It's kind of low profile. So element7concrete.com there's a lot of stuff that we've written there. Emails is Cory@element7concrete.com. Anyone that emails me, I'll email them back. I would give my mobile number if anybody wanted it. I'm pretty open to deal with whatever weirdos show up, in the hopes of finding cool people that I actually need to connect with.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cory. For your last question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
I mean, frankly, this is a huge honor. I mean, the fact that like anybody would care what we're doing over here. In fact, I was just kind of laughing. Like, I mean, we're covered in dust over here. I mean, like we're pretty low level people. And so like, I guess if anyone has watched, the idea that someone might have actually spent 25 minutes of their life to hear me blather around about the stuff I'm trying to do is inspiring. It's humbling. And so I'm stoked on that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And this was a very inspiring episode, especially you were sharing about your business. It was great to learn about. So, anybody listening, definitely be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. And thanks again for being on the show today.
Been my honor. Thank you so much.